Welcome back to another powerful episode of the Service First podcast, where we explore the power of putting a commitment to others first in business and in life. Join us as we sit down with industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and everyday people who are making a positive impact through their commitment to service. Get ready to be inspired, learn from the best, and discover how you too can put service first. So welcome to the Service First podcast, episode 5. And we've got Avery Nelson here with us today. Avery is the community outreach manager for Blue Collar Restaurant Group. And we're excited to kind of hear her story a little bit and talk about, what our plans are, goals are for community outreach here at Blue Collar. So welcome.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. So I guess just to kind of get started, maybe we could do like a little bit of an introduction of you, your background, and how, you kind of got to this point of working in the service industry.
Right. Well, I grew up in Jackson, Wyoming. My upbringing kind of was centered around, I would say, community involvement. Started with my parents, who were both heavily involved in the community. My dad was a local psychologist and always worked at the community counseling center. My mom worked for various nonprofits and within the community, and it was kind of always instilled in us to be involved in some way, shape, or form. I'm kind of seeing that from my parents' perspective and as a child perspective, kind of what they would do in terms of fundraising and, I don't know, just getting really involved with like mental health, working with adults with developmental disabilities, etc. And that kind of pushed me to want to do similar things when I went to college. I studied psychology. I finished college and got back involved with some nonprofit work that was actually directly supervised by my father, doing social work, working with at-risk teenagers in the town of Jackson, Wyoming, kids aged 12 to 18 who were placed in a group home from the courts, or they were voluntarily placed there by their parents because they were struggling at home, and just getting involved with their lives and teaching them ways to cope with hardships in their lives that weren't drugs, alcohol, acting out. This was teaching them to ski, to hike, mountain climb, rock climb, fish, just find other ways to use their time and as another outlet. And I really, really enjoyed that, and it was really difficult and rewarding, and kind of been on this track to want to do something similar my whole life. I always had this feeling that I want to be involved in the community in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted to be a caseworker for these kids, so I went to law school, but decided I didn't want to be a lawyer full-blown. So I decided to move to Bozeman and ended up working for Blue Collar. Just got my toes kind of wet in the restaurant industry, started as a host. And I think actually working in the restaurant helped me realize small things that help you in the community. You think you just work at a restaurant and that's not really a lot of nonprofit work, but when you're talking to people who come in through the doors day in and day out, and especially when I got to serve and bartend and seeing regulars come in every day and hearing them talk about their lives and their wins and struggles, and being there to listen and offer advice or just a listening ear, that was really inspirational and moving for me, and I got to see that in a different way than I would have thought would be like kind of community involvement, and really enjoyed that.
People half joke about like being a bartender is like half restaurant work, half like being a psychologist or a therapist for people too, right? Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, there are people who come in literally every single day to talk to you, and you get to know them like they're a friend. That was awesome. Looking back to the time that you spent in Jackson, growing up, and then after college working in that organization, like how were you like measuring the impact that you were making with those kids?
I think about just a couple incidents that stand out in my mind where you can see people's improvement directly. And I think the best part is seeing kids come around and be proud of themselves for accomplishing something they didn't think that they could do. Where there was one child who grew up in Mexico, and he had at some point had a bad experience with a waterfall and was afraid of heights and was just very reserved. And we took him to the climbing gym, and he was so nervous, but I did belay for him, and he would start just like 2 feet off the ground, and he'd want to come back down, and I would show him, like, I've got you. I'd have him come back from the wall and feel that he wasn't going to go anywhere. And then he was so excited to get to the top and just climbed right up to the top, and the light on his face after, and he just wanted to do it over and over and over again, and getting to see just the impact being there for somebody has on their lives is really, really special.
So was that organization that you were involved in specifically geared towards like outdoor recreational activities as a methodology for like whether building confidence or overcoming other struggles in these kids' lives?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think there's so many things outdoor sports can teach you about strength and leadership qualities in yourself. And I think that was their main purpose. We had, of course, an in-house therapist, and they would see a therapist and do a lot of work with their families. But for focusing with the kids, it was about teaching them that confidence and showing them ways that they could use outdoor activities to build that confidence, and also as an outlet for some of the feelings that they were going through instead of turning to drugs, alcohol, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting how, with outdoor activities, specifically with whether it's mountaineering or water sports or whatever, like, it does teach you a lot about teamwork and leadership. And there's organizations, like big organizations, that are dedicated exclusively to using those methods to help build confidence and leadership skills with kids. Like Knowles in particular stands out as a really great organization that puts out programs for kids to get together and and learn the team dynamic and learn leadership and stuff in that outdoor environment. There's something about being in nature and being in those outdoor scenarios that really helps facilitate that growth. Same with team sports too, right? Like, athletics for me personally, and I know a lot of people involved in our company, look back on experiences in athletics, whether it's youth sports or college sports or whatever, as kind of a proving grounds and an environment where we learned a lot about leadership and teamwork and all of that.
Oh, absolutely. I think there's something about sports and athletics and outdoor activities that make you have to be present in the moment and think about problems that are arising every second and how to get around those things. Yeah.
So now in your position, which is pretty fresh, we're still developing what it means to be a community outreach manager. But like, what are some goals that you think we have and what we want to accomplish, for our team?
Yeah, I think that for myself, when I think about ways that I want to impact the community, I think about our internal community just within the company, and then also the community of Bozeman or Montana at large. And I like to think about this idea of mentorship and what it means to push and believe in people and how that impacts them throughout their lives. Kind of going back with my involvement with the kids and just seeing how it impacts people to believe in them, support them, and how far you can go with that. Whether that's getting team members involved in an activity, a sport together. I've reached out to a bunch of people within blue collar Bozeman to see if they would do the Jim Bridger Trail run together and maybe do monthly group runs. And I think that camaraderie and pushing each other to tackle this 10-mile race, the Jim Bridger Trail run is a 10-mile mountain race in the Bridgers in July. And I've already had a couple people reach out to me saying that this is something they wouldn't normally do, but because they don't feel confident or strong in their ability to do that by themselves. But if there's a group of people that they know, they would want to tackle this challenge. And I think that's really something that's awesome. And so my goal is to do more things like that, activities together, teaching people things that they would be otherwise afraid to learn on their own. And then also in terms of the rest of the community, I think trying to get involved in similar ways. I know 2 months ago we helped some employees work on their house, and I think seeing them see us be there and support them and help them, it was much more than what you could get from being supported financially. Like, that is a big help, but having people hands-on all together really, I think, impacted them in a different way, and trying to find ways to do that in other community sectors. So
yeah, it was funny, like, before we got started, you mentioned how Riley said, like, more about community inreach and outreach, and I do think there's an interesting separation in how we serve our internal community at Blue Collar versus like directly reaching out to whether it's other local nonprofits or community efforts that we can participate in, and then there's like an in between where serving our teams at Blue Collar. I mean, these are people, we have, 200 employees now or something like that here in Bozeman. And we're all locals, like we are part of the community. And so working on each other, working with each other, helping, develop these traits that we're talking about is community service in a way, in, helping, create sustainable jobs and employment for people in a community that's tough to afford and tough to survive in, thrive in. So that's really important for us. And then allowing these traits that get developed in our team members to help like indirectly serve the community as a whole.
Yeah, and I think that what's funny about my history with this company more recently is that I would say in the fall I kind of went through this mental phase where personally I was thinking to myself, what am I doing in my life that is making me feel fulfilled? And I was kind of searching for nonprofits that I could volunteer for and find a way to get back involved in community service and help. And then I sat and had my scorecard with you guys, and I think I don't know if you picked up on that, but you pretty much point blank asked me, what am I doing that fulfills me? Because it's not just work. Like, we're here because we like to work and we like our jobs, but what is actually fulfilling me? And I brought to you my ideas about how I wanted to be involved in the community, and I think it'd be really fulfilling to use this company as a means to do that. And that was really, really awesome. And I think about what makes communities stronger, and that is ultimately everyone supporting each other and being there for each other. And I think that's kind of also the Montana way, the Blue Collar way of, if people are more involved in helping each other in the community, it builds stronger communities and happier people, because I feel like they're more fulfilled in their lives.
And that's the whole point of a community, right? Is to like improve quality of life for those that are involved. And I think it is maybe like the low-hanging fruit where people think about, okay, how can I, give back to my community? How can I get involved? To look for, existing local nonprofits, and we have a lot of great ones here in Bozeman, and it's absolutely nothing against any of them, and we're excited to be involved with as many as we can contribute to. But it's easy to overlook the community and the people that we have like in-house, basically, that we have, even though, Blue Collar is a for-profit organization, we run restaurant businesses, we can kind of take that same approach to, nonprofit community service within our teams in the restaurants, and making sure that we're helping improve quality of life for the people who work in these restaurants and help us do what we do every day.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, starting from, the people who work in these restaurants and supporting them because they help us, but also supporting the community at large because they are why we're in business too. And we're in business because they choose us every day and they talk about us to their friends, and they come into these restaurants because it's a place where they feel happy sharing these dinners, lunches with their friends and family, and then recognizing that and wanting to get involved in the community.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of opportunity here, as we talk about what types of events we're planning, what efforts we're going to contribute to and stuff. But I mean, to that point about, the relationships that are built between customers in our restaurants and team members in the restaurants, is maybe something, we haven't really discussed that directly yet, but could be a big opportunity to leverage as we move forward, and that we can say, we're almost building this tribe around people that already interact with each other in this, in the restaurant environments. How can we take that elsewhere? Like whether it's just, organizing like what trail runs and stuff. Yeah, definitely including our team members, but then maybe there's some customers that want to get involved, and just be part of that effort, be part of that activity and the experience, because they're part of our tribe as much as our team members are.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to really, I think the sky is the limit in terms of what we can do. And it's kind of exciting and intimidating because I have all these ideas and trying to bring it in, and I don't have to do it all at once.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But yeah, we have thousands of people a day that come through the restaurants. If we can get 1% of them to participate, in these efforts that we're working towards, if it's a community service effort, an internal mission, or just a, more of like a recreational morale building, team building type of activity, let's do it. The more that we can get those people involved, it just strengthens that tribe a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's really unique, and you don't really see that in any other restaurant community, honestly. It's really special that this is something that we're working on. I think we do a lot of nonprofit work already with fundraising activities, but I think whenever we can get people hands-on involved in those nonprofit organizations and working alongside them outside of just raising money at the restaurant, I think that is just going to be
for sure
awesome.
Fundraising is a necessary aspect of a nonprofit organization and what they facilitating the work that they do, but being hands-on with the mission is irreplaceable, because that's really us, dedicating our time as community members towards that mission, right? And that's like the one resource that everybody has in common, is you only have so much time. What are you willing to invest in the people around you? And it's cool because we do have a lot of people, on our teams that are willing to invest, and now putting you, sort of at the top of the pyramid with this effort, and, investing in someone to coordinate, organize, and put people's efforts together towards a common goal, is something that we're really excited about. So I'm glad that you brought it up and that you identified that, this community involvement piece is something that you're passionate about, because I think it's a big opportunity for us. It's something that we, are passionate about as a family and as a business, but it's not something that we've really ever, organized our efforts towards. And now that we're operating at a pretty large scale now, we can really make a big impact.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned earlier is like your commitment and passion about like helping the like at-risk teens, like the youth that you worked with when you were in Jackson. How is that translated into your role as a leader in blue collar?
I think that it translated really well because I started out as a support staff manager at Sidewinders Bozeman. And so I was like the direct supervisor of support staff, which is bussers, hosts, food runners, and they're all teenagers at some level. I might say like 15 to 22. And that's pretty much the same age range that I was working with in Jackson. And seeing these kids here going through similar growing pains, and getting to be, again, what I valued most was mentorship with them and helping them kind of go through their coming of age moments and supporting them where I could support them, whether they needed help with buying a uniform or shoes or advice with friend drama, family drama, all of that stuff. I could be kind of an objective listener and some form of guidance. That was really fulfilling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think so many people would look at that job as being like the support staff manager and dealing with teenagers mainly as like, oh, here we go. Like I'm going to be a restaurant manager dealing with teenagers who are going to like notoriously difficult to manage. But your approach in looking at it as like, yeah, I mean, the restaurant work is important, absolutely, and we always want to, strive to perform at a high level. But they're also there because this is maybe their first job, or they're working, with some of their friends and stuff, which is really awesome. I love that we, create environments where these young people get to do that.
Yeah, I think you might recall when you talked to me about moving into this position, I got very emotional about leaving that position because I was thinking, I don't want to leave these kids high and dry. I don't know who's going to be there to guide them next. And when I first started, it was kind of daunting. I was thinking, oh, these are all going to be teenagers and kids who haven't had a job before, and I had to kind of check myself because I would just talk to them as if they had been working basically, and realize I had to show some of them how to deposit a check or anything like that, which was kind of funny. But I worked really hard to go around their school schedules, teach them good work ethic, whether that's how to call out of a shift, when to show up to work, how to use their scheduling app, etc., and just really trying to get them started off on the right foot in terms of beginning their lives in the work field.
Yeah, I mean, it's important life lessons. I mean, I remember my very first job was at Hoback Sports in Jackson, and I look back on that with really fond memories because the owner at the time, Hernando, he was a great mentor, great businessman, and made an impact on my brother and I both worked for him when we were in high school. And then like the other, like the shop managers and other, coworkers that we had that we were working alongside, like in large part were basically Jackson ski bums, but they were awesome, and they became mentors in a way to my brother and I, as I was like a 15-year-old kid working in the rental shop at Hoback Sports. It was pretty cool. So the opportunity that we have to help shape these young people, put them on the right course, instill good values is huge. And I'm thankful that we have people like you on the team that don't overlook that opportunity for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess with this new role that we've created in community outreach, two-part question: what methodology do you intend to implement to help, instill those values and do what you did as a support staff manager, but at a larger scale now across multiple locations, teams? And then second part of the question is like, what takeaways do you hope that those staff members, be them teenagers or career service industry people that are getting involved in these community outreach efforts, like what do you hope they take away from it? So how are you going to do it, and why are you doing it, basically?
Good questions. Let's see. I think all that I keep coming back to is this idea, again, of mentorship and what it means to have someone believe in you. And I think my goal the past couple months since I've started working at the other restaurants is more, kind of learning the ins and outs of each restaurant and how to be a manager, but also more importantly, trying to get to know the people who work in all of the restaurants and getting to know their interests, talking to them about things that they would want to do that maybe they've been reserved about trying because it's just an idea in the back of their head, or like I would like to do this kind of run, or yada yada yada, but I'm scared. And getting feedback from people and trying to think about organizing events that they would be excited to get involved in, and kind of preemptively thinking about ways to help them grow into something that they're proud of, doing things that they're proud of. So trying to get to know everybody, I would say, anticipating what they would want to do all together that would make them feel proud of doing this new task, or hurdle that they want to get over, I guess.
Are there any like common themes there that you're hearing from people in terms of like what types of activities or causes or efforts they would feel like is like a productive use of the time with that goal in mind?
I haven't heard so much about volunteering yet, but like personal goals, it's been a lot of outdoor things. People have talked about backpacking or hiking, and people have talked about how they've always wanted to do that, but it's kind of intimidating, especially I think in places like Jackson and Bozeman, where if you move here and you don't necessarily have any background, it can be this barrier where you feel like you don't have any experience to do those things, so you have no business doing them, but then you're afraid to ask for a teacher. So I've heard feedback about these big runs, hiking, backpacking, rock climbing is a big one that people I think are nervous to do on their own, but with a group of their coworkers and friends, they would be more willing to try that. And I think setting that up for them would be huge and has the potential to create a stronger community within blue collar of people learning to rely on each other in these kind of intense scenarios, and seeing the benefits that we did with the kids in Jackson, like rock climbing, all that stuff, be translated to like adults here. Mm-hmm. I think getting to know everyone, finding out what their interests are, and then trying to guide them in the right ways, and being there to watch that growth and support that growth.
So going back to what we touched on earlier, like that seems pretty like internally focused, mm-hmm. right? Like we're sort of doing these morale days, for lack of a better term, but like, events or days that are organized with the goal of, helping people achieve their own personal goals, mm-hmm. or develop team dynamic, develop leadership skills in people, stuff like that, that's really focused on existing team members, right? Mm-hmm. And then you and I have talked about kind of two other buckets maybe where we have efforts that are organized around, getting our team members engaged in like external service, mm-hmm. efforts, whether that's going and volunteering with a local nonprofit, or helping out maybe a customer that has some needs, or another team member that has needs. So that's a second bucket, and then a third bucket being, events that are really specifically organized around supporting, other community efforts as well. So, an on-site fundraiser for a nonprofit, like what we do with Big Sky Bravery, mm-hmm. or Warriors in Quiet Waters, or youth team sports and stuff like that. Have you thought about any, I guess, of the two latter buckets there, like types of events or things that you want to work towards there?
Yeah, I think it would be awesome to get the team members more involved in some of those nonprofit fundraisers that we do. work at for Sidewinders, whether that's, I think before COVID, we used to do one a month. People could pick which nonprofit they wanted to donate to a month, and it would be like a specialty burger that we'd run all month, and part of that money would go to that nonprofit. So I thought about maybe bringing something like that again that would get the team members involved in picking their nonprofits that they want to support, and that would rotate every month. And then being in contact with people or nonprofits that we do support with these fundraisers, and trying to get people more involved, working with them hands-on, seeing if there's stuff that we can do with Big Sky Bravery. Like the animal shelter, people are really interested in.
GVLT.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like they just posted sometime in May, I think they're going to do a highlight trail cleanup.
Nice.
And it's on a Saturday. I was going to try and rally a bunch of people to go out there and do that, which I think would be cool.
What do you think is like the biggest hurdle to getting like that specific scenario? Let's say there's a highlight trail cleanup. How do we get, 50 people from blue collar to show up? Like, what do you think's what are the hurdles to accomplishing that?
I think we just need to talk about it more and get people to get excited about it, instead of thinking, oh, I want to go, but I think people have this fear that it would just be them that shows up. But I think spreading the word, making it exciting and fun, which it already is, but I don't know. I think that's a unique challenge, but I think if we haven't even tried it yet, so maybe just talking about it and making it this fun, big event day where we're all going to be there. I thought about maybe I could design like some T-shirts that we all wear. That's fun. And I don't know. Yeah, good question. Yeah,
because I think that's one of the big opportunities we have with this is that there's not very many organizations in Bozeman that have 200 plus team members to engage in these types of efforts, and so that's a big opportunity. It's a big responsibility, but we have this group of people that we can leverage their efforts, and it becomes this like multiplied force of good that we can offer to our community.
Yeah.
I know one thing I'm excited about within Blue Collar is we trying to eliminate as many of those hurdles as possible, right? Like encouraging people to contribute their time in a way that we all agree is like mutually beneficial for the company, or for the community rather.
Right.
So things like paid volunteer days are now something that that we're excited to do. Have you got any feedback on that, or people how you think that will play out?
I think it's huge. Yeah, people are really excited, and I think that it means a lot for people to feel that the company they work for has values that align with theirs, in a way that if they want to go do something, they would be financially supported. So then because I think in a restaurant industry, especially, a lot of these events happen on Saturdays, and that's usually a pretty good day to make money at work. And feeling like their company that they work for says like, hey, if you take this day off, you'll still get paid, and you'll feel really good about whatever you're doing. I think that is huge.
Yeah, and one thing I hope that anybody that cares enough to listen to this will take away is that we do want to hear those ideas. We want contributions from team members, from customers, anybody that has a cause that they're passionate about, and they're like, hey, this would be a great opportunity to get we just need a force multiplier. We need a team of people that can come and help clean up the trail, or help with a youth sport fundraiser or something like that. And we have that opportunity to do it with our team, but you're not going to come up with all those ideas. I'm not going to come up with all those ideas. And the more people we can have, flowing those ideas into the pool, the more likely they are to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how do we do that? For anybody that's listening, how can they contribute an idea or a cause to you?
Yeah, that's kind of going back to, I think, your two-part question earlier, and that my main goal in moving into all of the restaurants the last month or so is trying to form these connections with people where they feel comfortable with me. They know that there is no, stupid cause or activity that they want to do to just tell me what they're thinking. And my job is to be there to support them and help them organize that, get other people involved. So yeah, my goal is to get people more comfortable with sharing those thoughts and ideas with me as much as possible. And whether it's a text message, if that's easier, or coming up to me in person, just finding a way to figure out what makes people tick here.
So what does success look like on that end, like for you as a part of our team at Blue Collar, for really spearheading this community engagement program? In an ideal scenario, look 5 years into the future, and this program is like fully established and productive. What does that look like in your eyes?
Oh man, it's hard to picture 5 years because I'm just picturing right now, and my
Could
goal
be 1 year or whatever.
I mean, my goal even right now, like, I think it would be awesome if I could have something planned literally at least once a week, whether that's an activity or a volunteering activity once a week, and getting as many people and making it kind of more regular so everyone knows, like, oh, on Fridays at 2, we're going to do something. So I really want to make time out of my schedule to do this.
Yep.
And just making it something that's like constantly changing for what people are excited about, but consistently there, so they always can be involved in some way, shape, or form.
I think that's really good. And, even things like this podcast, which was like something I've been thinking about for a while and wanting to do, but like, if you don't put it on the schedule, if you don't like allocate your time to it, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And so I like to look at things like I just phrased that, like, what does success look like? What does a successful podcast production look like in my eyes? Well, you can take that vision and say it, and then kind of reverse engineer it, right? So if you're looking at this and saying, okay, I want to have a weekly community engagement program, one in any of those 3 buckets we talked about before, like that time slot could be allocated to either one of those, right? But it needs to happen where you want it to happen. A successful program is for it to happen, this amount of hours per week, every week.
Yeah.
Start there. And then, and say, okay, that's what I want to work towards. Today we're doing 0 hours per week on average, or maybe a little bit more than that, but, not a ton. We haven't really dedicated, a specific time slot to that, right?
Right.
So organizing that effort and saying, okay, guys, every Saturday morning, 10 a.m., we're going to be doing something. And that could be an internal mission. It could be a group run. It could be, a day you're taking everybody out skiing. Or it could be, hey, we're showing up to the highlight, trailhead to pick up trash.
Yeah.
And that is what it is. So, I'm super excited for where you can take that.
Yeah, me too. I think the sky is the limit, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, cool. I think I just want to encourage anybody who has an idea, whether you're a team member, a customer, a manager, whatever, or just some rando listening to this podcast, like, shoot us an email. I'm Blane at BCRG.co. Avery's Avery at BCRG.co. And we want to hear what those ideas are, because this is something that we are really, intentional about. We are serious about investing in this program and really making some headway. So. And
super excited to get going on some things. So we need some ideas in the pool.
Yeah, for sure. I think, looking at, we're towards the end of March right now. The weather's going to really start getting nice here pretty soon. Great opportunities for things like group runs for our team. So, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, some big production, but it's definitely stuff that, that we want to get the ball rolling on. In fact, like, going back to the analogy of this podcast, like one thing Marcus and I talked about was like sooner or later we just have to press the record button.
Yeah.
It's like we can overthink it. We can try to plan out, beautiful shots and this production value, but sooner or later we're just going to hit record and probably make some mistakes. Like the first podcast we did with Joe and Denise, like has no video because we kind of screwed that up and the audio was messy and all of that. But that's the only way that you improve. And we've all made plenty of mistakes before. Definitely running these restaurants, we've made plenty of mistakes, but that's what helps us get better, right?
Yeah, I know. Even the first kind of community event we did when we helped with the house that had a fire, tried to get everybody involved, and think it was like, oh, we forgot this, and I don't know what time, and are we meeting inside Sidewinders or outside Sidewinders? And so some people were just waiting in their cars, and they'd kind of timidly come in, and they were like, I'm not sure anyone else is going to show up, so I was nervous, and there ended up being quite a few of us there. And so everyone's kind of like timid to start, but once we get the ball rolling, I think it'll be like, oh, this consistently happens, consistently people show up, and it's good. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, I know that was really impactful, and I was proud of all you guys for showing up and getting your hands dirty and helping out with a really tough situation for a couple of our guys. So,
and it was awesome.
Sweet. Well, thanks, Avery. I appreciate you sitting down with me and talking about this really exciting and important effort. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Service First podcast. Join us on our mission to spread the word and inspire others to lead with a service first mindset by sharing this episode with your friends and colleagues. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the Service First podcast on your favorite platform. We can't wait to connect with you and continue this important conversation about service, community, and leadership.